The lands of Sham and Palestine were once the physical domain of prophets, but by this point in history, the Bani Israel lived under the constant shadow of local tribes who had seized their territory through force. Driven from their homes and seeing their sons killed, the population recognized this decline as a direct consequence of their own collective choices. They had traded spiritual discipline for disobedience, and the result was systemic weakness. Desperate for a solution, they approached Prophet Samuel with a specific request: appoint a king to lead them into battle. They assumed that to defeat a professional army, they needed a leader backed by immense wealth and an established royal bloodline. This request revealed a specific misunderstanding of how power actually functions. They equated military capabilities strictly with material prosperity, believing that the external optics of royalty were the primary requirement for victory. The choice for their new king ignored these social hierarchies. Allah selected a man named Talut, who lived in poverty and held no prior public standing within the community. The tribal elites were quick to voice their dissent. They looked at Talut's lack of financial assets and his unremarkable family name, questioning how someone without a significant inheritance could command authority. But the selection criteria ignored financial metrics. Talut was chosen for two specific traits that actually survive under pressure: deep intellectual capacity and great physical strength. This established a new standard for the tribes. Leadership is not a byproduct of societal status. It is a divine allocation based on the internal courage and capability of the individual. Talut assembled a massive force, but rather than marching them through hospitable terrain, he led them deep into a harsh, dehydrating desert. The heat was relentless, testing the physical limits of every soldier in the ranks. When the army reached a flowing river, the focus shifted to psychological restraint. Talut issued a specific command. Despite their thirst, soldiers were permitted only a single handful. To drink more meant immediate disqualification. When faced with the water, the discipline of the majority failed. Thousands of men rushed the banks and drank their fill, but as they satisfied their physical craving, they were suddenly overcome by a fear of the enemy they had come to fight. Out of the entire force, only 313 men limited themselves to a single handful. These few maintained their focus, while the rest were paralyzed by their own lack of restraint. This process reduced the army's numbers to increase its quality. Those attached to physical comfort are the first to lose resolve, whereas those with internal discipline are capable of enduring a crisis. The 313 men arrived at the battlefield to find a massive opposing force led by Jalut. He was a commander of such immense size and heavy armor that his presence alone intimidated the Israeli soldiers. This ratio highlights the physical reality of the battle. You have exactly 313 men facing a cluster of troops so large it appears insurmountable. Looking at these figures, the seasoned soldiers in the front lines were unable to act. While veterans hesitated, a young shepherd named Dawood stood quietly. Wearing no armor, his preparation happened in private. He had previously defended his flock from a lion with his bare hands, relying entirely on God rather than conventional weapons. While the army evaluated their chances based on their physical inferiority, Dawood's capability was rooted in a history of trials that the professional soldiers had never experienced. Jalut stepped forward and issued a challenge for single combat, a demand that caused the courage of the Israeli forces to evaporate. No one in the formal military structure was willing to move. Dawood broke the silence. He stepped forward and volunteered to meet the giant, stating clearly that his motivation was to defend the honor of his faith rather than to seek personal fame. King Talut offered the boy his own royal armor for protection, but Dawood refused it. He chose to walk onto the battlefield without any of the traditional gear that the army considered essential for survival. This refusal was the final step in the filtration process. By stripping away the armor, Dawood demonstrated that he had no reliance on the external tools that everyone else believed were necessary for a victory. Using a simple shepherd's sling, Dawood launched a single stone. It bypassed the giant's heavy defenses and struck him directly in the forehead. The armored giant fell. This single event broke the enemy's psychological hold over the battlefield, allowing the 313 men to advance and drive back the remaining forces. The victory led to a massive shift in leadership. Dawood transitioned from a shepherd to a king, and the Tawbut-e-Sakina, the sacred ark containing the relics of the prophets, was returned to the people. This narrative provides a framework for modern challenges. Whether it is a systemic injustice, an overwhelming debt, or a personal crisis, the size of the obstacle doesn't dictate the outcome. The mechanics of this ancient struggle suggest that even when resources appear to be at zero, victory is still possible. Ultimately, power does not originate from the volume of one's material assets. It is a result of the conviction that remains after every worldly reliance has been stripped away.